Imagine being chained in a cold, dark basement, your only crime being born a pit bull, hungry, scared, and forced to fight just to survive. This is the story of Fiona and Rascal, two dogs who faced unimaginable cruelty but found their way to love and safety. Stick with me, because their journey will break your heart and lift your spirit. Picture this: Long Island, New York, 2021. The kind of place where suburban homes line quiet streets, kids ride bikes, and neighbors wave over picket fences. But beneath one of those unassuming houses, in a damp, windowless basement, Fiona and Rascal were living a nightmare. Two pit bulls, their brindle coats matted with dirt and blood, chained to a concrete floor. The air reeked of fear and neglect. No bowls of kibble, no soft beds, no gentle pats, just the clank of chains and the distant roar of men betting on their pain. Fiona was the smaller of the two, with soulful brown eyes that seemed to carry the weight of the world. Rascal, her mate, was broader, his muscles scarred from fights he never chose. They weren't just dogs, they were a couple, bound by loyalty, huddling together for warmth in that grim basement. Every day, they faced the same terror, being dragged into a makeshift ring to fight, their bodies pushed to the brink for the amusement of strangers. If they refused, they'd face kicks, shouts, or worse. Starvation was their punishment for weakness. Yet, through it all, Fiona and Rascal had each other, their noses touching in the dark, a silent promise to endure. Can you imagine it? The hunger gnawing at your stomach, the pain of fresh wounds, and the constant fear of what's next, all while the person you love most is suffering right beside you. For Fiona and Rascal, this was their reality. Dogfighting rings like this one aren't just a crime. They're a betrayal of everything good about the bond between humans and dogs. In the US, dogfighting is a felony, and for good reason. It's a world of cruelty that thrives in the shadows, often in places you'd least expect, like a quiet Long Island neighborhood. But this story isn't just about pain. It's about hope, resilience, and the incredible power of love. Because one chilly night in 2021, everything changed for Fiona and Rascal. It was a police raid that broke the darkness. Sirens pierced the night as officers stormed the house, tipped off by a neighbor who'd heard the dog's cries. The basement door swung open, and flashlights cut through the gloom, landing on Fiona and Rascal. They were trembling, their bodies pressed against each other, unsure if this was another threat or something new. The officers, hardened by years on the job, paused. Even they couldn't ignore the sight of these two dogs, their eyes wide with fear, but still clinging to each other. The ASPCA was called in, their team trained to handle cases like this. Dogfighting rescues aren't just about freeing animals, they're about piecing together broken spirits. Fiona and Rascal were gently unchained, their bodies weak from malnutrition and injuries. Fiona limped, her left leg scarred from a recent fight. Rascal's ears were torn, his once proud stance now hunched. But as the rescuers coaxed them into crates, something remarkable happened. Fiona refused to move without Rascal. She'd nudge him, whimpering as if to say, We go together, or not at all. ASPCA team took them to a temporary shelter in New York, where veterinarians worked around the clock. Fiona needed stitches for a deep gash on her shoulder. Rascal had infections from untreated wounds. Both were severely underweight, their ribs stark against their skin. But the vets noticed something else. Even in separate kennels, Fiona and Rascal would stretch their paws through the bars, trying to touch. Their bond was undeniable, a lifeline in a world that had shown them nothing but cruelty. For weeks, the ASPCA team documented their injuries, building a case against the dogfighting ring. In New York, felony charges for animal cruelty carry serious weight, up to 7 years in prison. The evidence was overwhelming. The basement's blood-stained ring, the chains, the bedding logs. The abusers were arrested, but for Fiona and Rascal, justice was only the beginning. They needed a new life, one where they could learn to trust again. Now, let's take you to Ohio, a world away from that Long Island basement. The ASPCA's foster program is a lifeline for dogs like Fiona and Rascal, connecting them with families who specialize in healing traumatized animals. The couple was flown to a small town outside Columbus, where a foster family, Mark and Sarah, a couple with a big backyard and bigger hearts, was waiting. Mark and Sarah had fostered dogs before, but Fiona and Rascal were different. When the dogs arrived, they were shadows of themselves. Fiona would flinch at sudden movements, her tail tucked tight. Rascal growled softly at strangers, his eyes darting, always on guard. But Mark and Sarah knew patience was the key. They set up a quiet room with soft blankets, a bowl of water, and a pile of toys the dogs had never seen before. For days, Fiona and Rascal stayed curled up together, watching the humans warily. Sarah started small, sitting on the floor, reading aloud in a gentle voice. She'd leave treats a few feet away, letting the dogs decide when to approach. Fiona was the first to take a step, her nose twitching at the scent of chicken. Rascal followed, always keeping Fiona in his sight. It was a slow dance of trust, one that took weeks. But little by little, the dogs began to change. Fiona's tail wagged, just a flicker at first. Rascal started to relax, his growls replaced by curious sniffs. Can you picture that moment? A dog who's only known pain starting to believe in kindness. It's what makes rescue stories like this so powerful. In the US, organizations like the ASPCA rely on fosters and adopters to give animals a second chance. Across the country, from New York to Ohio to California, there are thousands of dogs in shelters, waiting for someone to see past their scars. Fiona and Rascal were lucky. They had each other, and now they had Mark and Sarah. Months passed, and the transformation was nothing short of a miracle. Fiona, once timid, discovered the joy of chasing a tennis ball across the backyard. She'd bound after it, her limp barely noticeable, her eyes bright with excitement. Rascal, the protector, found his own joy in belly rubs, sprawling on the grass, while Mark scratched his favorite spot. At night, they'd curl up together on a dog bed in the living room, their bodies tangled in a way that said, "We made it." But the real magic was in the little moments. Fiona learned to trust trust Sarah's gentle hands, letting her brush out her coat until it shone. Rascal, who once bared his teeth at strangers, started greeting neighbors with a wagging tail. Mark and Sarah's home became a sanctuary, a place where two broken dogs could heal. They even started joining the couple on walks around the neighborhood, trotting past Ohio's sprawling fields and friendly cul-de-sacs. The ASPCA kept tabs on their progress, and the news was good. Fiona and Rascal were ready for adoption. But there was a catch. They had to stay together. Their bond was too strong to break. Mark and Sarah, who'd grown to love the pair, couldn't bear the thought of separating them. So, they made a decision that changed everything. They adopted Fiona and Rascal themselves. Today, Fiona and Rascal live a life most dogs only dream of. Their days are filled with lazy naps on the couch, romps in the backyard, and the kind of love that heals old wounds. Fiona's favorite spot is by the window, where she watches kids play in the street, her tail thumping softly. Rascal, ever the guardian, still keeps an eye on her, but his vigilance has softened into something warmer. They're not just survivors, they're family. Their story isn't just about them, though. It's a reminder of the thousands of dogs still out there, trapped in cruel situations or waiting in shelters. In the U.S., animal cruelty laws are getting tougher. New York's felony charges are proof of that. But it's not enough. Dogs like Fiona and Rascal need us to speak up, to report neglect, to support rescues like the ASPCA. They need fosters, adopters, and advocates who believe every dog deserves a chance at love. Think about your own pets or the dogs you see in your neighborhood. That wagging tail, that eager bark, it's a language of trust, built on centuries of loyalty between humans and animals. Fiona and Rascal almost lost that chance, but love brought them back. Their story shows what's possible when we choose kindness over cruelty, when we fight for those who can't fight for themselves. So what can you do? Start small. Volunteer at a local shelter, donate to organizations like the ASPCA, or consider fostering. If you're in a position to adopt, think about a dog like Fiona or Rascal, one with a past, but a heart full of potential. And if you see something suspicious, like a neighbor's dog looking neglected, don't look away. Report it. Your voice could be the difference between a life of pain and a life of love. This story hit me hard, and I hope it hit you too. If it did, give this video a thumbs up, drop a comment about what moved you, and hit that subscribe button for more stories that matter. Together, we can spread awareness and make sure more dogs like Fiona and Rascal find their happy endings. Let's keep the love going